Hello, hello.
Howdy.
This is episode
7, Mark. 7. You just looked this
of
up.
Ono Anime, the podcast.
37
It's been
in
a real long
2017.
time, I feel like, since we've done like an actual proper one of these.
I'm not sure if I remember how to sit down and talk at the same time,
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
It's January 6, 2017, and we are here in the control room to discuss
2016.
the year of 2016. I know it's a little late, but
you can blame me. I got sick.
We also had a lot of year-end content, and I guess we should probably plug
Content
that.
with a capital C, I think.
Yeah, with a capital K, content, mortal content.
Corn content.
Yeah, we should probably plug that right now. Onoanime.moe, we have some really good written pieces. We talked about our best shows of fall 2016. I talked about some things that were maybe less than good at the end of the year. And, we have a couple videos up. So, yeah, go check out.
Yeah, check it out if you haven't checked out the website yet.
Yeah. And, of course, this will be up on the website by the time you guys are hearing it or seeing it.
Ooh.
So without much further ado, this is going to be kind of the same thing that we did last year. If you guys were around, a lot of you listening to this probably weren't. We definitely reached our zenith last year, but actually we didn't even have a YouTube page when we did this last year, so this will be funny. We have some categories. They're different from our regular...
Sorry to interrupt. I don't want to let it get too far. There's a red blinking light. Does that mean it is recording, or does it mean it's almost out of space or something?
That
Did
means
you check the space?
It is recording.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. That was bothering me.
Yeah.
Better to do that 5 minutes in than 35.
Yeah. I think. You're more than welcome to check while I explain how this works.
All right.
Here we go. This is live, unedited. We aren't taking any of this shit out. We're giving it to you raw. So this episode basically is going to work kind of differently than our standard award episodes in that we're going to talk about like what some of our favorite stuff from 2016
with the season award episodes, we try to do best and look at things at a critical sense. Here we're just going to be our actual anime fan piece of shit selves.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just limited to the good stuff. We're going to probably talk about some not so good stuff too.
It's okay to like bad things.
Yeah, but we're definitely going to be talking about what some of our favorite stuff is. So without any further ado, let's get right into it with our first category, favorite opening or favorite opening theme, kind of up to interpretation on that. But Patrick, you want to flip a coin, or how
you can start because I feel more coughs coming.
Okay, so this was a really hard category because I feel like there were some really good notable things that came out this year in terms of opening themes, which usually tend to be more memorable than ending themes, usually depending on the show. Obviously, "Lay Your Hands on Me" by the Boom Boom Satellites, which was the Kisniver opening, was like a really big thing for a lot of us this year, but me especially, considering all that's happened with that band, and I will definitely be talking about some of that later because they're in another category of mine. But my winner is Re, the 2016 version by Asian Kung Fu Generation, which was the Erased opening. I've talked about this song at length and
since about this time last month, or last year rather.
Yeah, basically, because it was just now starting up by this time last year. Yeah, I think the first episode would have been airing like today, probably. So it's a really meaningful song to me. It's really cool and meta, which is something that I've mentioned before. The whole theme of being able to go back in your past and kind of rewrite history, which is funny because Rewrite is another Asian Kung Fu Generation song that's very famous in the West. But this is kind of a perfect example of that, considering how Riri was a song that came out in 2006 on their album Solfa. And was really widely acclaimed in Japan, and honestly, that's probably the album that propelled them to stardom in a lot of ways. And seeing them go back and basically play their live version of that song, which is intensely different than the original on tape, and being able to have that, I ended up liking it more than the original version, which I know is kind of heretical, but it's sometimes really interesting to hear like a band 10 years later go back and like re-record a song, which is also something that you really don't get to hear enough, I feel like, mostly because most bands are afraid to do it. But Erased was definitely the occasion.
Is a lot of time to grow.
Yeah, Erased is definitely the occasion for that song. It's always going to hold a lot of meaning to me because I think Erased was definitely one of my favorite shows of the year, and definitely evoked a very different feeling than anything else that we saw this year. So
I'm not sure if I ever talked about this on the podcast because it's been a year already, but
yeah.
I actually finally managed to get my parents to watch an anime. That's been a struggle for me for like 13, 14 years.
That's a big deal.
Erased was that anime, and they fucking loved it. It was great.
Yeah,
so
Erased
that show did mean a lot.
Is definitely one of those shows that I feel like probably has pretty substantial mass appeal.
Absolutely.
And is definitely something bigger than just anime, which is special in anime itself.
Did that show up on US TV? I don't remember.
No. Well,
I feel like it might.
God. I mean, it got in... It is actually, I think, still in the process of being released, because I have been seeing the English cast of that show, many of whom I follow on Twitter, talking about it in certain capacities up until like probably last month, which is the last time I think remember hearing it.
It's just straight up good thriller.
Yeah, it definitely should go on Adult Swim at a certain point, but even so, I mean, the fact that it's available to us, the plebs, is pretty awesome. But yeah, so that's my Riri 2016 version. That is my favorite opening from 2016.
Mine is a lot more boring with a lot less feeling, but it's honestly, looking back, the only opening song that I continue to listen to past its season that I didn't like feel very much in love with the anime, and that was the Tanaka-kun one. I think that was actually my pick for one of the episodes. Trying to remember the actual name. Somebody keeps on messaging me on Facebook, making it very, very difficult to find this song. But man, we'll have to put it in later because I cannot for the life of me find it right now.
I wasn't planning on putting any of these.
No, I mean just the name of it.
They're
Utatani Sunshine by Unlimited Tone. There we go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll have all the names of everything on the bottom of the screen when they come up.
It sounded just like almost like a country pop song in Japanese with male vocals, which I very, very rarely like in Japanese music. So
another show that
I'd listened to that like almost every day since I started watching the show. It's pretty crazy.
It was another show that definitely flew under the radar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, everyone that watched it like really, really enjoyed it though.
Yeah,
Tanaka-kun was a pretty great slice of life show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, shall we move on?
Yeah, so I don't have a ton to say about that other than I like that song.
Let's move on to our favorite ending theme of 2016.
Mine was super easy.
You go first.
To me, it was Peepo Password, not even close.
Yeah.
For Luluko, that was that song's a fucking jam.
Yeah.
Just the vocals and everything. I think most people when they listen to that kind of do like a slow mo dance to it. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely like a weird kind of ephemeral song, and
it's my aesthetic.
Yeah.
It really is though. I fucking love it.
It's always really awesome when Teddy Lloyd does anime music.
Yeah.
And I love that nowadays he's pretty much exclusively working with people that used to work at Gainax.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how most people know him.
I mean, it works out.
Yeah.
Here's the Gainax West and Panty and Stocking and Teddy Lloyd coming back.
Yeah. Shit, man.
I hope that happens.
Good God, please let that happen. What was the singer's name on that song? Because I know she sang the Yuri Kumarashi opening. Everyone always
let me look that up.
Everyone always confuses her with. I want to say it's Bonjour Suzuki, but I think that might be the one that everyone confuses her with.
People Password.
I actually think it is Bonjour Suzuki.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay, actually, actually, you know what? It's everyone confuses her with Daoko. And
Oh yeah, they don't even sound. I say that, but I like listen to Daoko's radio show and everything. I'm a huge fan.
They don't.
I don't think Majoru Suzuki ever raps either.
No, but the thing is that you hear like a wispy, wafy voice on a Teddy Lloyd song, and most people
I can see why.
Probably would assume that it's Daoko. I hope they do more anime stuff together. I just hope that Daoko stays involved with anime in some way, because she's really awesome.
She did Daisuke and Daikurai this fall, which were like anime style commercials. But yeah, I don't know.
Hey, whatever.
She's doing good for herself.
Yeah.
She just finished a tour too.
Oh, well, good for her.
Yeah. She's
working hard. My favorite ending from this year was one that I changed my opinion on pretty soon before we recorded this episode. It's called Taredoki Kawa. It's by Kana Shibue. It's the ending to Showa Roku Rakugo Shinju.
I'll be honest, I don't remember how that goes. Was it kind of jazzy?
This one we can get away with playing, definitely.
I just assume it was kind of jazzy.
Yeah. The only way you can get it on YouTube is by finding a dude that's doing a stand-up bass cover of it, but it's actually really
I'll listen to that.
Really good. But yeah, this one, less the song and more what it evokes.
That's completely fair.
It's really just kind of emotional, and it kind of ties each episode together. It had the closing animation is. Is that
a euphonium playing right now?
No, that is a trumpet, Patrick.
I know.
But yeah, it's accompanied by this really awesome kind of almost like Samurai Champloo color palette and style of rendering, where it's all like really stark black and like oranges, and it's like a sunset scene, and they're just kind of panning over like 1950s Tokyo and showing the different characters looking wistfully out of their windows. And it's a really, really powerful kind of just calming moment at the end of each episode, regardless of whatever happens. And it was like I was making this list really late at night, and I was just like, man, that might be a contender. And as soon as I started listening to it, I was like, that's it. I'm
listening to this now, clearly, and I just feel like it needs like a crackling fire and a nice like pot of coffee.
Totally. Or just like, whiskey on the rocks in a zoot suit. It's cold. You're on a fucking wooden balcony somewhere in Kanda overlooking something. I don't know.
Kanda of all places.
Yeah. I don't know. I was on Wikipedia the other day looking at the Great Kanto earthquake, and one of the areas there was like, this is Kanda, and I was just like,
Kanda's just a place in the middle of Tokyo.
I know, but it was always somewhere that we went through when we went to Japan on the Yamanori line. Anyway, so yeah, that guy was in a fucking Totoro onesie, by the way, doing that cover.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so
good on him.
Yeah, very evocative, very emotional, and definitely getting me ready for
the second season.
The second season, which came out today, and I've purposefully not watched it yet.
It's another hour-long one, so I'm waiting.
I'm so ready. Anyway, so yeah, that's my favorite. Let's move on to favorite original soundtrack. Mine's should be pretty obvious for anyone that listened. Actually, maybe it wouldn't be that obvious for anyone that knows me. It's the My Hero Academia soundtrack, Yuki Hayashi. I think this is probably his best and most memorable work by like a pretty wide margin. I think the only thing that would come close to it in terms of emotional impact is Haikyuu, even though I love his work, and I think he's done 1,000,001 different amazing soundtracks. My Hero Academia just had so much punch and so much, like, frankly, money behind it.
It really did.
They really gave him access to a lot more, like a full orchestra, in addition to like these really awesome kind of like rock soundtracks that he's able to make. But the reason why that might be surprising to some people is that Hiroyuki Sawano did 2 different soundtracks this year. He did Kabaneri and Thunderbolt Fantasy. And while Thunderbolt Fantasy was definitely pretty damn high up for me in terms of best soundtracks, I just think My Hero Academia had a lot more meaning behind it. And also, I just absolutely love that show and everything about it to death. So every time I still actively listen to that soundtrack, when I'm bored or whatever.
He's got a busy year coming up too. He
sure does.
It was just announced that he's doing the Welcome to the Ballroom soundtrack, which I Yeah, I haven't. I don't ever speak about manga on the show,
crazy.
but I really enjoy that manga. And it's actually a lot like Haikyuu. He's going to be doing that, and he's also doing the next Precure series.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to hear his.
In addition to My Hero Academia season 2.
Of course. He's got a busy year coming up, and I'm looking forward to see how he kind of conforms to those genres.
He's kind of a very busy guy always, though. He's always doing something or another.
Has he done anything outside of anime, or is anime just a shtick?
I don't know.
I know Sawano and Kawai Kenji do a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, Kenji Kawai he does more not anime stuff nowadays than anime, but
He outgrew us.
I will, as he should. He's too good for us.
All right, my favorite soundtrack was less of a soundtrack and more of a score.
Oh boy, he's done a lot. What? He did a TV drama with Sawano. He did more than what the and fucking Taka. Holy shit!
So you're telling me you're telling me he's pretty much Sawano's understudy.
I mean, he probably is, considering how similar their music sounds sometimes.
He
but
also
he's done
did an ER series.
He's done more than one drama series with Sawano, but this is like 2009 Sawano, which is not a great Sawano. He did
Our Horror Ride.
Oh shit, he did the live action Erased movie from 2 years ago.
He did Robot. I didn't know he did Robotics Notes.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah, he's.
I didn't know he did Gundam Build Fighters. That was pretty dope.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, he did the One Piece movie that Jamie Lee Curtis is about to go watch. We were talking about that before this episode. Sorry.
He did Death Parade too. God damn, he's done a lot more stuff than I have given him
what's
credit
that
for.
above Death Parade?
Wow. He did Dramatical Murder.
I think that means you have to watch it.
Holy shit. Well, I have watched it, and I'll tell you this, I don't have to ever watch it again. Anyway, talk about yours.
Mine, like I started to say, mine is less of a soundtrack and really more of a score, because it's scored exactly like you would expect a film, and that was Love Live Sunshine by Tatsuya Kato, where every episode had like 5 or 6 new tracks, and while it had a lot of motifs that follow characters and follow certain things, it was scored really, really well. The music never really took the focus off of this show, but it was really, really amazing at supporting it, and I just thought that made a hell of a soundtrack.
Totally.
And of course, a 12-second track named Ninenburi Desu ka is the greatest.
Fuck that track.
That track's
I
my favorite.
That track so much.
That track is my alarm and my ringtone.
It's so bad.
I love it.
I mean, it's good, but I hate it so fucking much.
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to favorite male character from 2016. Why don't you take this one?
Mine was I spoke about him at length when we did his season, but mine was Ikta Salork from All the Ramen in the Sky. Once again, because he was pretty much like Yang Wenli. It was really, really cool to see a male. I don't want to call him a harem protagonist because he's not, but a male.
He could have been.
He could have been if he wanted to, but he's too much of a gentleman. No. It was really cool to see the strong, talented, kind of, genius type. That didn't sound good at all. That didn't fall into the pitfalls of normal anime protagonists. I realized All the Ramen is more of a novel and less of a light novel, so that helped it escape the tropes. But Ikta was kind of like who I would like to aspire to be, with maybe a little bit less womanizing.
Yeah. Probably a lot less womanizing, considering how that was
he made
half
it work for
of his
him.
character in the beginning.
Yeah, he was a great character, and even his growth, just the little bit we saw in the show, was really, really amazing.
I feel like kind of everyone in that show definitely grew a lot, and also was very surprising, because I feel like they led you to believe that they were going to be like pigeonholed personality wise, and then kind of surprised you, like everyone, especially like Matthew. I feel like Matthew like definitely was.
Yeah, he could have easily been a 2-bit joke character, and he was a lot more than that.
Yeah. I liked that show. It was really good.
That was really good. I hope we get more. I hope we get more, and I hope the books come out in English, since we're getting a lot more of those lately.
I feel like it might be likely that the books will come out in English.
I sure hope so. I'd buy them.
Yeah.
If
Mine
the group is listening.
Mine was another no-brainer. Actually, it was hard, but I ended up going with Izuku Midoriya, or Deku, from My Hero Academia. Not the titular character, but definitely the main character.
It is his academia.
It is his Hero Academia, and he sure as hell showed it. There's so many things I could say about him. He is like everything that I love about his trope, which is the kind of down on his luck kid who all he wants to do is help people, but he doesn't have the power to do
Makes
it.
a great shonen protagonist.
And then he's finally given the ability to do so, but not without like a shockingly large measure of hard work, which is always a big thing for me. Like, I feel like, if you're just like rewarded without anything, then it kind of cheapens the whole idea of the show. But this was basically the complete opposite of that. Also, every time that I just full on started blubbering in that show was because of him, especially his interactions with his mom and his mom being proud of him was
really good.
Just so devastating.
Comes out to is Deku is a very good boy.
He is a very good boy.
Yeah,
he's a wonderful
like a
son,
kid.
and he has a smile that deserves protecting, but we don't need to protect it because he can just punch someone so hard that they explode and break his arm in the process.
Hopefully he gets better at that.
Yeah, I think he most certainly will.
Oh, he will. The tournament arc coming too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of that character. He's a perfect shonen protagonist in a lot of ways, and I feel like every way they could have messed up that character in some way was nailed. Like they really sure did it. Thanks, Bones. Okay, let's move to favorite female character. You went first last time, and this is also not going to be too surprising to anyone that knows me or knows my tastes. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Mine was, of course, Asuka Tanaka from Sound Euphonium. I started off liking her for very different reasons than I ended up liking her, and I feel like that show did such a good job of kind of frivolously introducing basically the entire like first half of the first season, and then immediately turning all of that on its head and showing actually, oh wait, these are people. They have flaws. There's a lot that you don't know about them, and most of that...
Nice. The dismantling of her perfect character in the second half of the second season was fantastic.
Yeah, but it was weird because it was done in a way that didn't make her... It didn't so much make her less perfect, so much as it did making her perfection like perverted in a way, almost. Because, on paper, she certainly is perfect. I mean, obviously, all the drama with her mom is something that she probably would have liked to have avoided. But, yeah, you can definitely see that, like, oh, she's not perfect because she wants to be. She's essentially perfect because it's, like, a full-on necessity to be able to live like, even the most, like, basic parts of her life. But, yeah, I feel like the other thing is that she is definitely a type of person that I feel like everyone has known in high school at one point or another.
Yeah, and they piss me off.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that's kind of why I loved her so much.
That
is
was
because
the point.
She made me so frustrated and so angry, especially in the second season. But she's a type of character that definitely appears like very friendly and frivolous and kind of, is the jokester of the class until you realize that is all a cover for her actually not being the best person in the way that she deals with others. But the thing that I don't think anyone was expecting was once you found out that she's not a great person, you also find out that she actually kind of has a good reason for doing that in her own mind. So yeah, she is a wonderfully complex character and definitely like pretty representative of why Sound Euphonium is so good overall. So, yeah.
Mine flipped 180 the other way from you. It was actually Luluco. And I know that sounds silly considering what I don't want to call Space Patrol Luluco a throwaway show, but that's definitely the way it's presented in the beginning. And I like Luluco because much like the people that Trigger themselves, if you ever listen to them talk about how the show came about, I really like the idea of the purity that comes with that sort of character. Like, she was really just a representation of the, like, pure, sweet middle school crush.
Yeah.
And there's something that Trigger loves to do about that. You see that in a lot of their stuff, and even going back to when all of them were at Gynax. You see, I mean, clearly, fully, it's there. And it's kind of throughout all of their work.
That is a much less pure
Yeah,
version
yeah.
of that, but yeah,
But,
that's definitely there.
Luluko was just kind of swept up with the flow and then eventually broke the flow to do what she felt like she really needed to do. And
Yeah.
then she got her heart broken and then said, fuck that, I'm doing it again and again and again until I finally get through to you.
Yeah.
That was really nice. It was just, I keep saying pure, but that's because it was pure. And I like that. It's, I don't know, that's something I like in anime. There's a lot of things that are stuck in middle school and high school anime that might be commentary on the type of people who get into anime. But it's nice to see that rewarded. I guess it is very much a fantasy, but it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and I feel like I hope that show isn't characterized too much as a throwaway show, because I mean I definitely feel like it for sure is a show for people that are Trigger fanatics.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, which is why it is a short and not a 22-minute full length show.
Shit, if Yumaishi had his way, it would have been 50 full episodes.
Yeah, that show has a lot of heart, and it also does maybe everything that anime in 2016 is afraid to do. Like
very blunt.
Full on, like the level of like, anime is so fucking reliant on self-referential humor. It is so reliant on references to make jokes, that like, we constantly talk about like how subversive and different Trigger is in the way that they approach anime, and like the fact that they were able to take what they do best, which is like satirizing the anime industry by just completely blowing up a certain trope of like how anime is made. Like they literally made a show about their other shows.
Yeah.
They made a show.
They missed
to
Turning
make,
Girls. I'm a little upset about that. But.
I mean, the other shows that they own the licenses to, I should say. Like, and that's really special because no other, like, short of fucking like the Daikon openings, like no other
yeah, they got in a lot of trouble for
studio
that.
has like, had the balls to be that open-faced about like, okay, like not only are we going to make fun of other anime, we're going to make fun of our other anime.
And then she turned into their mascot.
Yeah. No, I mean, she was their mascot. We
Yeah,
just
the whole
didn't
time
know
we
it.
just didn't know it.
I just hope that a
we get more
full-on
shorts.
Trigger
Oh, yeah.
Girls anime comes out of this.
I think it's inevitable. We know they're working on some original stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I feel, I mean, and that again would just be more evidence as to like how insanely outside the box Trigger is that like, oh shit, here's a full-length anime about our fucking mascots.
Why the hell
It's like
not?
if Toei made an anime about that fucking cat.
They did do a Puss in Boots
Gross.
ages ago.
Gross.
That's
I
where it
don't
came
want-
from.
I don't
Now
want
you know.
anything to do with that. But
Yeah,
in
I know
2016,
what you mean.
they should make
One about a CG Puss in Boots.
it's a cat in the hat. They should make a cat in the hat anime.
You just made it even worse.
I know. Starring Mike Myers. Okay, let's move right along to favorite voice actor. This is a gentleman voice actor.
I'm pretty sure I actually agreed with you on this one. I'm going to assume you said Suabe.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. It's hard to say that this is not just because of his performance as Victor Nikiforov.
For
which
me,
I
that
think,
was 90%, and the other 10% was actually Akai Megane from Prepara, because that probably got the most laughs out of any character this year from me.
I feel like Suabe. I mean, I've always loved Suabe since Space Dandy for sure, but let's take a look at his roles in 2016.
There were many.
They're insane. So he played a character in the flashback arc of the second season of Bungo Stray Dogs, which is actually one of the best, if not maybe even the best arc of that show. From an objective standpoint, I would never say that because I love the Western authors in that show too much. He played the head of the weird like SS secret police analog in Izetta. He was obviously Victor Nikiforov in Yuri on Ice. I guess he was in Danganronpa. I don't know. He was the fucking main character in Thunderbolt
Yeah,
Fantasy.
he was really good in that, too.
He was insanely good in that. He's the ornery ass teacher with the shutter shades in My Hero Academia. He was, I guess, something in Morosu Mononoke, which I dropped, and he was also something in Twin Star Exorcist, which I also dropped. But he was in, obviously, the Dainiki anime of 2016.
Don't say Dainiki.
I'm
going to ban that from our podcast. You can't say that.
Anyway, I mean, like his role, Bungo Stray Dogs, Izetta, Yuri on Ice, Thunderbolt Fantasy, My Hero Academia.
He was in Shogeki no Soma this year as well.
Yeah, true.
He was the spice god.
Yes, obviously. The Spice
Lord
Jedi.
of the Spice.
Lord of the Spice Force. But yeah,
Flow.
Oh my God. He was in Gran Turismo 4 as the car introduction narration.
He does
fucking
a lot of
fantastic.
narration stuff.
But yeah, he was insanely instrumental to why this year's voice acting on the male side was so good. Beyond that, the guy just has an unbelievably unique voice. I would go so far as to say he's probably like an analog to Saori Hayami in just the fact that every single time he shows up, he's just one of those voices that like immediately just stands out completely.
For sure.
And yeah, just with his performance as Victor really just wrapped up the year in the best possible way for him as a performer. So Junichi Suwabe, definitely my favorite and your favorite voice actor of 2016.
As far as voice actress is concerned, you actually just name dropped mine. So I'll lead in right there.
Saori Hayami?
Yeah, she was.
You mean Ono Anime's 2015 favorite voice actress of the year?
Nothing has changed. She's still amazing. If it wasn't enough for Fine, which it very well could be.
This was a hard choice, and I wanted to choose her again. But I ended up going with Inori Minase.
She had a breakout year for sure.
She did, and also I would say that her voice performance as Rem in ReZero was probably the reason why I liked that show as much as I did. I didn't, to be honest with you, did not really like it anywhere near as much as most people. I definitely enjoyed watching it, but I love Rem as much as anyone else, and Inori Minase's performance as her and the way that she could just like flip immediately between just like this angry, awful demon to like a remarkably sweet, like kind of, driven down voice. But she was in a lot of shows this year. That was just, I mean, she was Swim in Magical Girl Raising Project. But she was, she was the
I don't remember who that is.
Shamil. I don't know. She was someone in Alderman, and she was student in Love Live Sunshine. Anyway, I picked her because of Rem. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's completely fine.
Honestly, ReZero is not necessarily really at all represented on my list, except for like maybe one other thing. And I kind of wanted to just use this as an excuse to talk about how much I loved her performance in that show. I feel really bad for whoever voiced Ram because I feel like Inori Minase just kind of fucking left her in the dust completely. Not only because she appeared a lot more in the show, but because I don't know, Ram seemed a lot less personable.
I mean, she got a lot less time too.
Yeah. But I just feel like she didn't really get any characterization, and thus her voice acting was
murderous rage all the time.
Really boring. But yeah, Rem, definitely the best part of that show for me, and her voice performance was
I went with Saori, like I said, mostly because of Fine. That's hard to ignore. But she was also one of the main characters in Precure this year, and she excelled in that role. Precure roles for female voice actresses are kind of weird because there's always a few every year, and sometimes you get a super popular voice actress like Saori Hayami, and sometimes it's used to propel a relative unknown. Like they'll normally in this one, there were originally only 2 cures, and she was the veteran, the senpai to the girl doing the other cure, and I could almost like hear her giving tips to the other girls as they went along.
Was this really the great. Witch one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she was one of them in Hot Sky Precure.
That makes.
And she was also she was Kotori in Sweetness and Lightning.
She sure was. That was definitely she was
really
the best part of that show.
I mean, she was really good in everything she did.
Yeah.
Where else was she?
I've never heard her do a bad thing before.
She was also
even in bad shows. She was
Shiroyuki earlier this year, early this year. So, I mean, I
will never ever in a million years forget her first role that I remember her from, which is Hatoko from Battle. She
killed it there.
Yeah, definitely. She's usually the best part of any show that she's in terms of voice acting.
Yeah, that's kind of what she does.
Rarely voices a bad character, that's for sure. I'm really excited to see if she begins to branch out in 2017. I'd really like to see if she can voice a villain or just a bad person.
She's
She
well,
has an insanely sweet
I don't want to
voice.
call her a villain mostly because of spoilers, but she is one of the main parts of the love triangle in Fuka, and more importantly than that, she's the singer. She's a pop star in that. So I'm interested to hear more of her singing inside of a show because the girl that she's playing, Koyuki Hinashi, is literally Japan's top singer when in the show. So it'll be interesting to hear her have to carry a role as a singer.
She's a very good singer. So, yeah, she's really good. I had to resist picking her, honestly. She's a
the best.
clear winner in a lot of ways every year that she's in a lot of stuff, which has been a lot this year. So, all right, let's move on to favorite band or musical act. So this can be like a seiyuu group. It can be a band that is anime adjacent. Really, it can just be whatever the fuck we want because this is our
show. Damn it.
Show.
Earphone? No, I did like
ahead.
earphones. It was Aqua. Like
I feel like that is probably the least surprising thing. On
yeah,
this list.
no, I mean every time Love Live Sunshine comes up in the meta sense when we talk about not the show but anything else, I have to say, I've been following Aqua since they started, since the girls were announced. Immediately follow them all on Twitter and stuff like that. And they're a lot of fun to watch. I stay up or wake up super early to watch their lives when they stream them. I'm looking forward to seeing them do more this year because we're definitely getting a second season this year, even though it's not officially announced anywhere. They have a concert at the end of February, I think. It'll probably be announced then. But yeah, it's they're Aqua. I fucking love their music. Listen to it every day.
Yeah.
Read all their interviews.
Yeah, they're.
I'd be lying if I
characters
picked anybody else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's. I would have beat the shit out of you if you didn't pick Aqua, because they're pretty damn near the top for me. I had to not pick Guilty Kiss because specifically. I really
Guilty Kiss is definitely the best
Kiss
part
is,
in disc
so
sales
good.
and everything else.
Oh god, they're so good.
Have you seen them? They've given up on doing their like dumb pose, and half the time they just dab now.
God damn it! Of course they do. It's gonna get to the point where one of them is just gonna start throwing the water bottle. Yeah, they're definitely pretty close to the top for me as well. I mean, I think in terms of Love Live, I tend to like the anime part of it way more than the like real life version.
We'll see what happens when they come to AX and you get to experience
Well,
an
I mean,
Idol Live in real life.
Yeah, I'll do that, but I mean, you're not going to catch me waking up at fucking 3 a.m. to watch
It's a
live
religious
shit.
experience.
But I really liked. There wasn't a single character. I mean, I could give a shit about Ruby, but everyone else I really like.
But she's gonna Gamba Ruby.
I don't. I really don't like those characters. Those type of characters.
She'll have her day in season 2. She'll force you to love her.
Yeah, I mean, she's cool because she's Daya's sister, and Daya's cool. But
That is pretty great.
Daya is only cool because she's friends with Kanan, who is just the.
I think Dai is probably my favorite now that I'm more removed. Just
No,
because
honestly,
the desu.
I
God, I love it.
have gone back and forth a lot on like who my favorite.
For me, it's between
Aqua
Hanamaru
is.
and
I'm
Daya.
thinking Yo is like
Yo's really good.
number one for me. And I promise it's not just because of that poster of her emerging from the pool in the swimsuit, even though that is
I don't think anybody could fault you.
unbelievably well illustrated. It's very well illustrated. No, she's just like, she definitely has the best sense of style out of anyone in that group, and she also kind of doesn't give a shit, which I really like.
That's pretty good.
Also, I really like Mari, but I like Mari for really
For shitty reasons.
I mean,
That's
honestly, I feel
we
like
all like
out of-
Love Live for shitty reasons.
as much
so.
as I love Yo, I feel like out of all of them, Mari would be the one that I would actually like be like bros with.
True,
I would just
could
be
see
like,
that.
oh, well, probably because she can speak English.
There is
but
that.
also
There is that.
because she just seems like an absolute shitlord, and I'm all about that. So yeah, Aqua's pretty dope. I chose the Boom Boom Satellites for mostly depressing reasons. Miyuki Kawashima, their lead singer, passed away this year after a fight with a brain tumor that we have been covering since we've started this podcast.
Yeah.
But in a incredibly triumphant way, they went out in a hell of a way. They released a final EP that was probably some of their best work that they've ever done. And they did the opening to Kiss Niver, Lay Your Hands on Me, which I feel like for pretty much anyone that watched that show was one of the most meaningful musical moments of this entire year. I feel like it was just so different and unexpected, not only for like people that listen to them. I mean, if you know Boom Boom Satellites, you know mostly like they make music that sounds like it would be played in the club in The Matrix. And this was very, very different from that. I feel like I had to like kind of pinch myself every time I heard it because it was such a good, uplifting, inspirational song that was so perfect for Kisniver in every way. And I think that probably is most of the reason I will never forget Kisniver, is because every time that opening comes on, I'll think of that amazing After Effects work that they did on the opening animation.
Yeah, that opening animation didn't look like an OP. It looked like a music video.
Yeah.
A really good one.
In a really good way. Yeah. So yeah, Boom Boom Satellite's definitely they're definitely my most meaningful musical act of 2016. They definitely produced the song one of them that I listened to the most. I feel like if it was like the Asian Kung Fu Generation song and associated with what I think to be a better show, it would have been more meaningful. But overall, Boom Boom Satellites are like something that I will always listen to. And yeah, they're really good. And I really, really like them this year. All right, let's move along to biggest surprise. I want to hear what you picked for this.
Let me double check. I think I remember what I picked.
Okay.
Give me 2 seconds. I have it open.
Okay. Do you want me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no. Biggest surprise was High Fury.
Yeah.
Because actually, like, I saw, all the stuff, and it looked like a moe show with girls on boats, which was already up my alley. And then they expand the title, and it's High School Fleet. And I'm like, oh, shit. I have never heard of an idea that is more me than this.
Yeah, I remember reading the original like pitch for that show and envisioning something in my head that was so far from what we actually ended up getting.
You have girls on actual battleships, like warships, fighting each other.
I feel like it's like the kind of thing that a lot of people have wanted to see for a really long time. Like I
wanted to see it, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah, like the girls and like, because like I feel like every time I look at like Contact Collection, which I love, I'm like, man, this would be even cooler if it was just cute girls and ships, not cute girls are ships.
Well, now we have High Fury.
Now we have High Fury. I wish that show did better because I don't think we're ever going to see it again. But
they're doing some spin-off stuff, not animation, but they're still Kadokawa's still pushing it.
Yeah,
they have not given up. Overall, like that was, as far as surprise go, I can't think of like a single time over the last year, anime specific, where I was just like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, that show definitely was very different than what I expected it to be. And definitely one of my, I'd say probably one of my favorite shows of the year, just from
it's up there
sheer
for me.
On just tickling my nerd fancy.
I think that was one of the shows that I most looked forward to every week. Like every Saturday, I was like, let's do it. Is it 10 o'clock yet? Let's go.
Yeah, totally. It was really good. And I really enjoyed watching it. And I remember you messaging me about it, just being like, that show is Girls in Panzer, but with ships. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, fuck, that's all I need to hear.
It's time. Yeah.
Mine was actually ReZero, mostly because I remember...
It was a big surprise.
It was a huge surprise.
Isekai alternate world is something that, it's already run down and tired.
Yeah, that's what I was, because think about this on paper, with like completely separating yourself from that show. Think about this. You have Studio White Fox, not necessarily known for like fantastic content. And you have a story that is being adapted from a light novel about someone getting pulled into an alternate fantasy world in which cute girls are there. It's just like, how many fucking times have you heard that?
Even with the way the anime started in the first like few minutes, I was just like, oh, it's another one of these. And then by the time that that doubleheader ended, I was just like, oh shit, this was actually really cool and really good.
Yes, and like insanely well animated.
Yeah.
Some of the cuts in those first 2 episodes were used in our end of the year video.
It was really cool that we spoke about this at length when we did the finale episode, that they were able to compromise on episode length, because that's something that you can't do very easily in Japan, but it shows that they had like a really great artistic vision for this idea that they refused to back down on.
I won't say the pacing was perfect, but that it was very clear that from moment one, they
Super died way too many fucking times.
Yeah, they definitely managed their time really fucking well. And especially for a series that was 26 episodes long continuously, which you almost never see nowadays, like, shit, man, it was shocking how well put together that show was, and how much it surprised me given how fucking terrible its original premise was. So yeah, ReZero definitely most surprising for me. Most underrated. This is a vacuous.
I'm curious about your answer.
Mine was actually Ushio and Tora. I know
I can
the
see
second
that.
season ended this year, so I figured we could probably
counts.
count it. Yeah, I absolutely love that show, and I feel like it's pretty intimidating for people that feel like they don't know a whole lot about Japanese lore, and specifically like yokai.
Any yokai thing is gonna kind of get that feel.
I didn't know shit about yokai going into that show, and I can say that it was like definitely one of the most coherent shonen shows I've seen in a long time.
I'd agree until I got to the beginning of the second season when it restarted. I was just like, did I miss a few episodes? The beginning kind of threw you into some shit.
Yeah,
I was very
well,
confused.
they purposefully try to confuse you in that way to try to keep you in the dark as much as like, Ushio and Tora are. And I will agree that arc was pretty frustrating for a number of ways, but the way that show ended was just
the last few episodes
so
were so
good, and exactly how you would want to see a shonen show like that. And I also feel like that show went way darker than most shonen shows go. It
was a
involved
different
a lot more like outright horror. Than
it was
than
a
lot of
different time.
shonen
It was
shows.
kind of a product. You could tell that it was definitely an older
Oh,
series.
for sure. I mean, even the way that they adapted the character designs and stuff was super
sort of like
vintage.
Parasite, yeah.
And the way that it was, it was drawn and animated very much like evocative of like late 80s, early 90s kind of stuff, which I really liked. But yeah, I wish more people watched that show because I was
surprised it didn't catch on. Like there was nothing. I guess the style was hard for people to get into because it was readily available.
I feel like nowadays, with so many immensely popular shonen shows in the United States, it really takes a lot for another one to catch on.
I'm surprised it wasn't popular in South America.
True,
because you see
I don't
shonen like
know.
that if you look at charts and stuff and just looking at Twitter, you can generally see, and it was as quiet down there as it was up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily that surprising considering just like how intensely Japanese that show was in its content. But yeah, I wish more people watched that show because it is really, really good, and I really liked watching
Definitely enjoyed
it. Also, a fucking 80s Japanese hair metal band did both openings, which is always amazing. Yeah, so I wish more people watch that show. So, if you haven't fucking watched that show, go watch it.
Go watch it. It's
you
on
could
Crunchyroll.
knock that out in a weekend if you were dedicated.
On Crunchyroll, unlike my most underrated, which you probably could have guessed, was Kuromukuro.
Yeah,
not
totally.
like that. That was probably in my like top 5 for the season. Definitely top 10. Probably top 5, and nobody watched it because Netflix, which sucks because now it's been confirmed that Little Witch Academia is being held hostage until March.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that was a fantastic mecha series by one of my favorite studios, PA Works. It was the first time that they've done a mech series, and it was one of the best I've seen in the last few years. It was an interesting new take on them. All the characters were well written and well rounded and grew up well. The action was like second to none that season.
Yeah.
And nobody here watched it. I was hoping that it would get like that second wind of kind of fan support, sort of like Seven Deadly Sins.
I don't think they promoted it well enough.
No.
I don't think they really promoted it at all. I never saw it promoted.
I hear people at work come to me all the time because they know I'm the anime guy. They'll be like, hey, I was scrolling through Netflix and I saw this. And I get that all the time with things like Seven Deadly Sins. And that never happened with Kuromukuro. I don't know if they need to fix their algorithm or whatever, but it was so good. And I can't talk about it with anybody because nobody fucking saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it was one of 2 shows PA Works made this year, the other being Haruchika. And I really liked that show, but it's nowhere near as good as Kuromukuro is.
Haruchika was definitely their B team.
Yeah. I mean, and it speaks to the type of quality content that PA Works puts out, because I really fucking liked Haruchika, and I felt like that was one of the most underrated shows of that season. But yeah, I wouldn't have held a candle to Kuromukuro. But yeah, I'm really starting to hate Netflix and Amazon for the way that they handle anime, because it almost completely takes it out of the conversation. And like you were saying, like, Kuromukuro very well could have been one of the most popular shows this year. I have
every bit of confidence that it would have been.
it just, yeah, it's unfair the way that they handle that type of stuff.
The thing that gets me is it's not like this stuff wasn't ready. If they wanted to wait until the dub or whatever,
they don't. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing.
They release it weekly on Netflix in Japan with English subs. That's how I watched it. Actually, I booted up a Japanese VPN and I logged into my Netflix account and watched it that way.
Yeah,
can't expect everybody to do that, but
I really just don't. I understand from a Netflix perspective why they're doing it, but they also completely fail to understand how anime in the States works. It's not like,
I can't believe Trigger's about to make the same mistake.
It's not an old, dying medium like TV where you can just throw an entire season up and people can binge it because it's, it's not like anime in the States is all based on timing. It takes so much for something to become popular here. And the one thing that you can do to absolutely guarantee that it will never become popular is have its first release be after it stopped airing in Japan.
Yeah.
Nowadays, at least.
Yeah, with how easy it is to pirate stuff and no shortage of fan subbers picking up stuff that doesn't release immediately, it's the shit. Seiren was a day late and people subbed it 6 hours later.
Yeah.
And that was just the other day. So you're really fighting at that point. And like I said before, I watched it with English subs on the Japanese site, so the work was there. It was done.
Yeah. Anime is not this big stable medium in the US. It is literally clawing
it lives on
for
fan support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to kill it.
Yeah. So fuck you, Netflix.
So, Kurumukuro.
And to a lesser extent, Amazon, because at least Amazon does simulcasting, but they still suck.
Well, they do simulcasting when they decide they want to.
Yeah, true. Okay, let's continuing this wonderful negativity. Let's get into biggest disappointment.
Mine. I'm just going to lead in right here because mine was actually the fracturing of support for streaming services. We have on the one hand, we have Netflix, and I just went over Kurumukuro, but the other big one was Amazon. We had Amazon do a lot of great promotional work with Cabaneri, and I was like, wow, okay, Amazon Prime works as a distribution service. I have no problem with this.
Yeah.
And then the next season, they had Battery, and you had to search Battery anime for it to show up. If you search Battery, it was like the 22nd result.
Yeah.
There was zero marketing whatsoever. The subs weren't great. And then they picked up 2 licenses for fall. They picked up The Great Passage, which was another fantastic show, and that I'm not sure if that ever came out in English-speaking countries. I know it didn't in the U.S. And then they also had the new Nanoha Vivid show, and that they just held hostage. It never came out in the U.S. I think Amazon UK had it in English. So I don't get what happened there. I have no idea how that happens. How you have a license and you just don't do anything with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you're actively denying other people access to that license where they could actually bring it to the fans. I
hope that doesn't happen with Onihei this season.
Yeah, it's true. And the other thing for me is that their video player and their PlayStation app suck.
The X-ray thing is cool. Everything else is shit.
But yeah, I mean, the X-ray thing is cool, but it doesn't make up for the fact that their video player sucks. Mm-hmm. The buffering times are stupid. The quality of the video is worse than even Crunchyroll's upscan
quality
stuff.
Like the visual quality of the subs is miserable too.
Yeah. And they're in like yellow.
Yeah.
Which is like, who the fuck?
Fucking like 2004 ADV land.
Yeah, like Jesus Christ. So yeah, get your shit together. There was a lot for me this year, but my probably thinking about it, the biggest I feel like for most people would be Berserk.
Yeah, that was the easy one. I had
Christ.
Berserk written down as well.
Oh my God.
It's hard to ignore that.
It's hard to even fathom how badly that show failed in every single conceivable way. I mean, it really is like it goes past like I'm incapable of getting mad at that show because of how shocked I am with it. Like it literally is the most.
How much of it did you watch?
Maybe 2 episodes.
Yeah, I think I got halfway through the second. I was like,
I mean, I can handle bad, but not only was it horrifically animated, badly voice acted, which is shocking for Berserk, considering how they have a voice cast that's been around for 15 fucking years. And it was, badly directed, badly animated. I mean, when I say badly animated, I mean like...
That's not just hating on the fact that it was CG.
It was. I mean, look, you had to show like Bubuki Baranki. I mean, even Ajin was better than that shit. I mean, like you could at least say Ajin was
Ajin was worth watching.
Was worth watching, and also it wasn't badly
good.
Animated. It was probably badly rendered, and the lighting sucked on that show. But Berserk did literally every conceivable thing wrong. For a franchise that is probably one of the greatest manga series of all time and deserves a nut-bustingly good adaptation, and this was, like, offensively bad. It would be offensively bad even if it wasn't, like, a huge thing. So, yeah, fuck that show. Fuck Millipensi and Gemba for, like, even considering doing that show in the way that they did it. So... yeah, it's just like beyond depressing at this point. It's just like almost like you have to laugh at it, but then
I really don't want to because you can't laugh at Berserk.
No, it's so bad.
It's not a laughing matter unless we're talking about Idolmaster and Berserk.
Yeah.
And even then you want to cry a little.
Yeah. God, Jesus.
All right, where are we going next?
We're going to favorite animation studio. So, I'll go first on this one. Mine was definitely Bones this year. This is a hard category because, most animation studios, they do, 1, 2, maybe 3 shows a year, depending on how big they are. Bones did 4 this year, and 3 of them were incredibly important to me. They did Mob Psycho 100, they did My Hero Academia, and they did Bungo Stray Dogs. They also did Concrete Revolution. I have no interest in seeing that really as much as...
People say it's good.
People say it's fantastic. I was pretty remarkably bored by the first season of that show and don't really have any desire to go back to it as much as Yutaka Nakamura makes me want to. But speaking of Yutaka Nakamura... at least one of the shows that I mentioned had definitely a cut of the year for me. But yeah, Bones, definitely had a banner year for me. They are always an insanely entertaining animation studio to watch, and it's also really interesting to see, especially this year, the very wide breadth of content that they can put out. It's crazy because if you were to ask me, like, hey, do you think Mob Psycho 100 and Bungo Stray Dogs are made by the same studio? I would have been like, no fucking way. But I also have to say that even their, like, definite, like, B-team kind of, backhanded kind of stuff like Bungo Stray Dogs, which was a very popular show, and I really liked it. But from an animation standpoint, wasn't really.
I hear the second season was a lot better than the first.
It was the second season was a lot better than the first. But if we're talking about like just pure animation, like obviously Mob Psycho was about as experimental and insane and just bonesy as you can possibly get. Whereas Bungo Stray Dogs was pretty on the nose. I will say this though, I credit needs to go where it's due. Like Bungo Stray Dogs was actually way better animated than I remember it being, mostly because I went on Sakugaboru and there was like just as many cuts from that show that were really good looking as like one of their other shows, My Hero Academia, which was also fantastically animated, but like very on model,
bombastically animated.
Yeah, like but it was still like very on model, very very much like you could see the bones in it, but like they didn't go crazy like Mob Psycho, which is like might as well have just been like an art piece in the way that they animated. But yeah, I mean they had a really good year for me this year and animated some of my favorite shows. And it's really awesome to see a studio take on that much work and succeed so heartily. And I'm sure, if I had watched Concrete Revolution and liked it, it would have been even more meaningful. But I just, I'm happy with what I have. Anyway,
I went with Animation Workshop. Sorry, Dokakobo, as y'all probably know them. Mm-hmm. Mostly because a New Game was like one of the most immaculately animated slice of life I've seen since like K-On! But on top of that, they really just prove that time and time again, even if what they're adapting or what they have to work with isn't great. They're still going to make it look good. Case in point, Luck and Logic. I don't know why I finished that, but I did.
It's so weird to think that that was them.
Yeah, it looked pretty the whole way through. The design work was top notch. That was fantastic. But more importantly, they also had Sancha Sanyo, which we didn't really talk about because I went back and I finished it. Like I saw 10 episodes in 2 days before we did our finale for that season, and that was that had some of the best character animation outside of the Great Passage that I saw this year. Really cartoony, lots of fun, a lot like Love Lab. They were just.
I remember that name, but I don't remember like the
It was on
show
Funimation.
at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you ever even saw the first one. Like the show itself was pretty boring, but it had some of the coolest animation, which is kind of.
I remember you showing me some of the stuff from that show and it being.
They also
definitely
had
very
something that unfortunately I haven't experienced, but I really, really want to, and I hope they put it out. Is they did a Magical Girl demo for Oculus Rift that they've only shown at like
a 3D one.
Yeah, using the same technology that they used for Luck and Logic called Breachlog that they've only shown at like virtual reality events and stuff.
That's crazy.
So that's on my to-do list. Like go to Japan so I can watch Breachlog. But I have no idea what it's about. But God, do I want to know? Just imagine the people that did New Game doing a virtual reality Magical Girl thing.
That sounds like a thing that I want to see.
Yep. And they got Gabriel Dropout coming out soon.
True.
They did do Token Rambu. The one that just finished airing.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. I did watch the first episode and it was pretty well animated.
It was.
Then most importantly, even more important than New Game, they did the Parappa shorts.
True. That is very.
Yeah,
true.
they were. They didn't have anything insane like Mob Psycho, but they were a lot of fun the entire year. All
They're
their
very
projects
solid.
had a lot of work put into them, and it showed.
Yeah, totally.
So Dogako.
Okay. Favorite animation. This is pretty straightforward. Again, did we agree on this one? Maybe
I actually had a tie.
Okay.
I could not bring myself to choose between Mob Psycho, which was the obvious one, and then
Flip Flappers.
Flip Flappers.
Yeah.
Mob Psycho was a lot more coherent in its view, where it was all very much the same show, and Flip Flappers was kind of halfway between Mob Psycho and One Punch Man, where they allowed the animators and the animation directors to go nuts with their own style. Yeah. It was still very obviously Flip Flappers because of the character designs and everything, but they through visiting different versions of Pure Illusion inside of different people's minds, they were able to really put their own spin on everything, and every single episode looked absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I feel like Flip Flappers was like a really good, because mine was just Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
I feel like Flip Flappers was a really good way for a lot of younger animators with less.
Yeah, lots of 3 hertz and WebGen in there.
I feel like it was a really good way for them to show off, like, hey, we can do these crazy stylized cuts that you see all the time too, and make them our own.
I guess part of the reason why I put it on the same level as Mob Psycho is because it came out of somebody that isn't Bones.
Yeah, no. I mean, the only reason that I would say Mob Psycho over Flip Flappers, because I definitely think Flip Flappers was like one of the top 3 best animated shows of the year. Bones, I feel like, does a thing where you rarely get to see such artistic creativity in the way a show is animated. And it's easy to just say that, like, oh yeah, like Miyo Sato and her oil on glass stuff was like, you know, definitely the most unique part of that show.
Yeah, that was probably the coolest thing I saw all year.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the most unique thing that was done in Japanese animation all year, probably, in terms of just like something that like you just never fucking see. Like, well, it's so crazy. And of course, Bones is the studio that's doing it. But also just like the way that entire show was animated was so strange and experimental and like all over the fucking place, but in a way that like just totally made sense for that show, because, you know, it's one, he is all over the place as an artist and as a writer. And, you know, you even had a like thing at the end of the season where like one had a hand in animating some stuff. I understand that he like didn't, you know, solo key animate it, but like still he was directly in, he had an animation credit.
Yeah,
a mangaka with no prior animation experience had a animation credit. But yeah, I mean, that show is just like a really, I mean, they had a lot of younger animators from like staff animators from Bones on that show, but they also had a lot of old hats that basically you could see that the director just came to them and was just like, hey, just do whatever you want.
What happened is everybody knew
Go wild.
Everybody knew what type of crazy, well animated thing they were going for, and everybody probably went to Bones and was like, hey, let me get a piece of this.
Yeah, totally. And it was also really funny to see Yutaka Nakamura's cut in that show looking almost some of the most normal looking in that really show. Mostly because just like of how crazy experimental, but even that was a pretty straightforward cut for him. But he also he was fucking busy this year, man.
Before we move on to the next section, I want to give a even though I gave a tie, I want to give a shout out / honorable mention to the Kizumonogatari movies. True. Because those looked amazing. Like every single cut was something that was worth talking about.
Yeah.
And really interesting use of CG too.
Yeah. For sure. Like, I feel like Shaft is maybe one of the only animation studios that is not afraid to use CG and make it not look like anime, which I really appreciate.
It's part I feel like of it. It's putting yourself in Aragi's mind most of the time.
Yeah. But all the CG in that movie looked perfect.
Yeah.
It was exactly how it should be used.
Directional choice.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about favorite short. So again, this is a pretty vacuous category. I think we kind of colluded on this one.
Yeah, we did.
To talk about some different stuff. But I basically kept this in here because I wanted to talk about Shelter.
Shelter was really good.
Yeah, Shelter was probably one of the most important things that happened in 2016 in anime in a lot of different ways. Not just for the promotion of like collaboration between Western artists and Japanese animators, but also because of like how insane
because
the
Megumi
response
Kono
was.
solo animated the damn thing.
Yeah, but I mean the response to the thing worldwide was pretty universally positive and also pretty widely covered in a lot of ways because I feel like it was presented from definitely like an anime industry outward perspective, and everyone kind of realized like, oh shit, this is like super duper rare for this to ever happen. And in fact, like the last time that it actually did happen was fucking Leiji Matsumoto doing a thing with Daft Punk.
And even then, it wasn't as like integrated.
No. I mean,
Daft Punk was just like, yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah. So this is definitely just like, I mean, it's definitely my favorite short thing of the year. I mean, it's like I said, it's a weird category because like, in a year where there's not really any Animator Expo stuff going on, it's hard to pick like a best short. But I mean, this is a fucking no-brainer. It's like elevated above most things that I saw this year just for like how meaningful it was and how many people were involved in it that like clearly had so much enthusiasm for like what they were doing and knew that like it would change things in a good way. So
I'm just happy it made Porter happy. Seeing that guy glow about it is pretty great.
Well, I feel like, and this is also like his perfect solidification of like now everyone knows that like he's our Porter.
He really
like
is.
He is. The anime community has like fully claimed him at this point, and like he's totally within it. And I can only hope that it means that he collaborates more with Japanese artists and creators in the future, for sure.
I mean, for favorite short, I asked Mark before we did this. I was like, "Did you mean like short or short series?" He's just like, we can do both. So I went with Luluco, clearly.
I wanted to put this on here too. So
yeah, so it worked out. I watch a lot of the short style anime because there's really no reason not to.
Yeah,
it's just a few minutes throw it on while doing something else normally. And Luluco kind of broke the way I think about them. Not that there weren't other great ones before, like Yamano Susume, especially that I really looked forward to. But I actually watched every single episode of that on break more often than not in the stall at work because I couldn't wait to watch it.
Yeah.
And that's also really good.
Amazing having a show that felt like a full length show, even though it was only 7-minute episodes.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. And just everything involving that. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to dislike anything that Hiroyuki Imaishi like reigns over because the man is
he's a genius in his own right.
He's a motherfucking, but he also is just like completely fearless in every way, in the way that he directs, in the way that he writes concepts, and just how strange a man he is.
You're not wrong.
He's a strange man in the most wonderful, kind way. He just seems like he is literally he is the inner child that exists within all of us. He loves like fucking Street Sharks, and that's why he made Mach Speed. Like he literally, everything he does comes from a place of such wonderful like childish whimsy, which is so weird when you hear him speak because he's just like the most muted kind of. Like you can tell there's a shitlord.
He lets it all out on paper.
There's a shitlord under all that being a Japanese person, but like in front of a crowd. But like he just, man, he's such a cool dude, and it's so awesome to see him just be completely unfettered like this. And also I feel like being such a huge fan of Kill la Kill, there's a good amount of that show in Luluco. Like especially there's a good amount of Mako in Luluco that like I feel like we all really hearkened back to.
There's no avoiding that.
Not to mention the fact that he fucking brought Mayumi Shintani out of the cobwebs again, which is like, I feel like Trigger is literally the only reason she's still employed, which is a huge fucking shame because she, again, has one of the most unique voices in voice acting
I think
today.
the problem is Ryoko Shiraishi has like the same exact voice and a different agency, and it's probably easier to get.
Yeah. Well, and then also, you know, I would not be surprised since Mayumi Shintani has been voice acting since literally the early 90s. I would not be surprised at all if she just kind of doesn't want to work that much anymore.
Well, yeah,
and it's probably just her relationships from the Fully Cooley days that are bringing her back to work on Trigger shows because, I mean, it's so funny, too, because, like, the thing she's like... I think she's like probably like either late 30s, early 40s now. Mm-hmm. She looks like she's fucking 23.
She does.
And seeing her at like AX was definitely, oh my God. A highlight. I mean, well, and you see, you know, like when they brought her out at the Trigger panel at AX, you saw that like she just has this fucking dynamic with all of them.
Hamming it up.
Yeah, she has this dynamic with all of them. You're like, oh shit, well, no wonder they keep bringing her out to do these bit parts because it's probably so fun in that studio to be, you know, doing those ADR sessions. So.
And then she said, like, she ad-libbed so much of it because she figured I can just say, like, most words 10 times quicker than anybody else can. I'll make it fit.
Yeah. But it was also so insane to be confronted with this woman who has literally voiced, like, some of the most important characters from both my childhood and my current anime watching days. Like fucking Nanon, I was obsessed with her for such a long time. And obviously like Haruko, it's so...
It goes without saying.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And yeah, thank God for Trigger because if it wasn't for them, she would probably not be working that much. But yeah. Anyway, so there's that. Let's move on to favorite movie. So this is going to differ pretty significantly.
Yeah,
and also,
because I haven't seen this.
I have the biggest. I saw yours. I have the biggest cop out answer in the world. But I mean,
go ahead and go.
Mine was Kimi no Nawa or Your Name. This is immensely.
You got to see it at the LA premiere.
So I was one of the first 1,000 or so people in the entire world to see this movie. Like this was literally the first time. You watched it with Shinkai. Shown. Yeah. Fuck anyway, you. Yeah. Like Makoto Shinkai was there.
Well, I was in line for Trigger.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for everyone that has to see this movie now. Like I really do, and I'm not saying that in like a shitty.
Well, I'm not saying that. Train is.
Yeah, the hype train has driven this poor fucking film into the ground, and I feel like.
Well, that's the thing.
It's undeserving. I mean, not in the way, it's undeserving of the fate that it's going to have, which is, for a lot of people, this movie is not going to live up to.
There's no way to.
There is, it's the Half-Life 3 of anime movies at this point. Like
Duke Nukem forever.
But having said that, and I also severely regret that most people will not be able to see this movie with the crowd that I saw it with, because. Yeah, I mean, seeing it with 1,000 other fucking just diehard weeaboos who also, are in an environment like AX, which is not like being in a silent movie theater, where you can have the whole crowd literally swelling at the big moments and kind of just literally screaming at certain points. I mean, it's a remarkable film. It is one of the greatest anime movies ever made, and it is definitely Makoto Shinkai's best film. And I feel like once it does eventually come out in the US, it is going to be very explosive.
I just hope it gets a proper release with proper promotion, because all they have to do is go, hey, this outsold some of Miyazaki's movies, slap it on a commercial, call it a day.
Yeah. I don't know how they are going to be able to promote it as much as, I mean, because obviously like Miyazaki movies have like a really big advantage in that Disney fucking distributes them and has an insane
It's an uphill battle.
theater
My
infrastructure.
point by saying that is that I hope, because this is, from my understanding, I have not seen the movie. It's a film with a lot of broad appeal outside of anime circles.
Totally.
So I hope that the broad audience gets to see it. I don't want it to be one of those releases that only anime fans see. I want to see how it does with quote unquote normal people.
It is exactly the type of film that could, and should succeed in the United
That's what I want to
States
see.
in a very broad fashion. And I'm sure, you know, the license holders in the States are seeing the numbers that it's pulling in Japan and Korea and the rest of Asia and are
Just debut number one in China too.
flipping their shit. They're probably flipping their shit. I mean, this is the weight of the world is now sitting on their shoulders in the way that they have to promote.
It's a good thing they're taking their time with it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would just say definitely try to go into this one with as little expectation as possible, because honestly, that's how I went into it, and it surprised the shit out of me. And while I wouldn't say that it's probably like one of my favorite movies of all time, it definitely is one of the best anime movies ever made, and is on par with like any Miyazaki movie or any of the stuff that just kind of like transcends anime. It is up there. And yeah, it's definitely my favorite anime movie that I saw this year. Not even close.
This for me, this was an interesting year in Japanese filmmaking, because or anime filmmaking, in that we've seen a lot of the market go that way. It's been proven over the last 2 years that anime movies are a great way to make money. Girls in Panzer, I think, just finished its run in theaters after a year.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely absurd. So we've got that, and I'm sad that I haven't seen most of the movies that came out in Japan anime-wise. There's, just off the top of my head, there's Your Name, like you said. There was one that just came out called In This Corner of the World that was actually crowdfunded and just passed $1 billion yen. That one's about a small seaside town during World War II and how war production affected it, and is evidently very, very good. They just added another 100 theaters to viewings in Japan.
Yeah, I've heard about that one.
Of course, there was Kyoani's movie, The Silent Voice, which from everyone I know that's seen it said, yeah, it's a lot better than Your Name.
And also their film version of Sound Euphonium, which met with pretty damn universal positive appeal.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that us being stateside did not get to see. But out of what we did see, for me, because
Yomushi Pedal movie came out this year.
Sure did. So did the Kantai Collection film, if we're going there. But that is something I will be seeing in a few weeks in Japan. But for me, because it came out in the U.S. December 27th, I can say the first Kizumonogatari film.
Yeah.
That was such a unique experience in mood setting more than anything. I don't want to spoil the film for anybody who hasn't seen it. Even if you aren't into the Monogatari series, watch it any way you can, because it's very, very unique. And I'm trying to think of any scenes and anything else I've seen that makes me feel more tense than the scene when he first meets Shinobu, or Heart Underblade, the vampire. Because just the crazy close-ups with the bugging eyes, the background noise, I don't want to spoil it once again. The background noise that they use really puts you in Araragi, the main character's head, and makes you feel, holy shit, I'm in a subway and there's this crazy being that's missing all of their limbs that's telling me to come closer. What the fuck should I do? There's that, and the rest of the film is equally as absolutely insane. So there was also Kizumonogatari 2 that came out in theaters here, if you got a chance to see that.
We can count that.
Yeah.
I think.
They're
Probably.
an hour long each, so together we got 2 hours. But Kizumonogatari was amazing and one of the coolest animated things I've seen in a long time.
I feel like in 2016, especially, we're starting to see the lines between OVA and movie blur. I think you're seeing the overall runtime of certain films come down.
A lot of things that would otherwise be OVA releases are getting theatrical releases in Japan. Yeah. We have Yamato did that, and in fact is going to do that again with Yamato 2022, which I believe starts late February. We have Gundam The Origin choosing the same thing, that's getting mini theatrical releases.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of things. Toei's got a new film called Pop and Q that's doing the same thing.
Totally. I think it's just because it is so ridiculously inexpensive to release a film in like minorly theatrically in Japan, because there just are so many movie theaters, and especially nowadays, like there's a lot of movie theaters in Japan that are specifically dedicated to showing anime. So like there's a lot more openings, and ever since like stuff has gone digital.
Production standpoint, it's a lot easier too. You have a lot longer production time for a lot fewer minutes. Your deadlines are a lot more flexible. It's a lot easier to push back a movie date than a broadcast date.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
there aren't a lot of negatives, and it's been shown that they make money. When we talk about making money in Japan, we always talk about just sales, but we also have to talk about merchandise. And one of the things that's very different about movie theaters in Japan versus the U.S. is they almost always have a gift shop where you can buy related goods at the movie theater.
Yeah.
So pushing movie merchandise is a big deal. Repeat ticket sales, just bundled with like a film strip or something, makes people go see the same movie 3 or 4 times. That's why Girls in Panzer ran for a year. It wasn't new people seeing it every week. It was the same assholes going to go see the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Japan's film infrastructure is very different from ours in a lot of ways. Plus the nature of the fact that they just have a lot more stuff like crunched down into smaller spaces. This means that there's a shitload of movie theaters. Like even if you're just going to release a film in Tokyo, I mean, shit, you're gonna have it in like 50 theaters.
Yeah.
So
it's a really cool move, like for the industry, and I would like it a lot more if I didn't live in the U.S.
I was about to say, it really sucks.
It really
for us
sucks
because
for us.
the funnel for releasing movies in the States is probably the worst
It's
part.
slow, but it's also getting a lot better.
It's getting a lot better, but it's just not there.
Yeah,
it's just not.
I do
there,
like how
and
many theater releases we're getting, though.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I would love to see, Fathom and Funimation's.
Fathom's working with Aniplex now as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Fathom's doing a bang up job.
I would like to see both that kind of stuff become like, as frequent as like, oh yeah, like every, like even if it's like 6 months after the film releases in Japan, we have it in the States, like for sure. That would be fantastic.
We're actually getting the Sword Online movie within like a couple weeks.
Yeah. Also, Crunchyroll has been doing a really good job of putting certain theatrical
a lot of
releases,
those.
like the
a lot of
Yopeta
those,
movie, speaking of, was put up on
that was
Crunchyroll this
there
year.
was one super early in the year named like Garukoa, I think it was, that came out, I think the same day it came out in theaters in Japan.
Yeah.
That was an Aniplex move. That was interesting.
But unfortunately, the only reason that really happens is because there won't be really any hope of a home video release in the States, which is why you don't really see a whole lot of movies on Crunchyroll. Anyway, so let's move on
Movies
to
are
favorite adaptation. We're getting down to the wire here. These are our last 3.
No, it's easy Mob Psycho.
Yeah.
I say easy, but it was between that and Haikyuu because Haikyuu is a like godlike adaptation.
Haikyuu is the highest rated anime of 2016 on my anime list.
I have no trouble believing that.
Yeah. It is. I mean, Haikyuu, I almost feel like it's unfair to even include it on any of my list because I feel like it could easily probably win like almost every category.
Pretty much.
It is the most unshakably solid sports anime I've ever seen in any possible combination of ways, and its adaptation is so fucking flawless that like I said, I feel like it is unfair to everything else that came out this year.
Second only to Keijo.
I mean, that was a very good adaptation of the original source
Except where they
material.
cut out the 40 chapters in the beginning.
Whatever. We don't need to see that. We don't need characterization.
Nah, but Mob, it's not easy to take one's stuff and do it the way Mob Psycho did.
Yeah.
I think somebody renowned for making ugly art and to turn it into Mob Psycho is
turn it into one of the most.
It's a miracle work.
Things.
Let's turn water into wine.
It's like it's an ugly beauty.
Absolutely.
It's like how our real monsters look cool. Like like Kat literally said like shit. This looks like a Klasky Kasupo show.
Oh
like,
my God.
And it's so true.
Not
like it
wrong.
really does. It's definitely got that like thing that like SpongeBob does a lot, where it has the like incredibly detailed paintings that they cut to. Mob did that so much, and it was so good. Mine was Sound Euphonium. I feel like I needed to get this on here somewhere because while I definitely don't think that the second season was as good as the first, overall, Sound Euphonium again is another show that I feel like I probably could just have sweep this entire category if I didn't want to make for an interesting podcast episode. Yeah, that show means an unbelievable amount to me. The level of accuracy that they crafted that. I mean, you know, we talked a lot about like Yuri on Ice and how accurate that was to figure skating. As accurate as that was to figure skating, I have trouble connecting to that. What I don't have trouble connecting to is band and brass instruments, and like the fact that in the last episode they were playing their competition piece and the lead trumpet player was doing the fingerings on her desk, which is something that I still fucking do to this day. Like, you know, like it's a nervous tick, just like going up and down the chromatic scale on the trumpet keys. Like it's the little things like that make a show like Sound Euphonium so impactful.
Coney's attention to detail is absurd.
Well, and the thing that always impresses me about that show is that despite the fact that, you know, this stuff is taking place in what to us seems like a magical land very far away, where you wouldn't think that there would be very many things in common between high school life in Japan and in the U.S., it's shockingly common stuff that they're covering in that show that definitely happened to me in a lot of ways. And also, you know, the trajectory of the Kitauji band is also like eerily familiar to me, considering how like our high school band kind of went through that same, you know, sort of trajectory. And they just deal with so many things that I have such an immense personal connection to, that, you know, even though I've never read the original source work, I can say that this is like definitely my adaptation of 2016, just because of how it stands alone as a show in my mind. It is insanely good and meaningful to me.
It was a good show.
Yeah.
That title drop, best title drop in a show.
Oh, totally.
Of the last like 10 years.
For sure.
I was like, oh shit, they did it. Oh shit, they did it.
Yeah, that's a pretty insane twist. I mean, it wasn't like a twist, but it kind of was a twist.
Yeah.
Okay, best original. I want to hear yours.
Yeah, that was Flip Flappers.
Flip Flap. Okay, yeah.
Flip Flappers was in many ways like my favorite type of anime, like almost an art house project. It's one that I can go back and revisit time and time again. In fact, I've already started my first rewatch because there's as much depth to it as you want it to be. And in fact, there was a very, very good translation of an even better interview with Oshiyama, the director and original creator, that's floating around. Have you read that?
No, I have not.
It's really good, but he both confirmed a lot of what the speculation was about the show, especially concerning Umwelt. You know, the idea of different creatures perceiving things differently, and also debunked a lot of stuff. But you know, more or less, he said we wanted a show where if somebody's coming back from work, you know, they can turn it on and be wowed by the pretty colors and enjoy what's going on. But at the same time, if somebody wants to go in and put effort into it, there's a lot of messages you can take, some of them more on purpose and put in there by us, but we purposefully crafted it in such a way that everybody can get their own message out of it. And I think one of my favorite things going forward with this show is probably going to be reading somebody's, you know, play-by-play, what they think about it, then watching it myself and seeing if I got a similar or different thing out of it. And that's what I like to see out of original projects. You don't see that a lot in anime. Kyoso Giga is about the only thing in recent years that I can think of that did a similar thing for me. I don't rewatch a lot of anime, but Foot Flappers is definitely going to be one that I watch at least once a year for some time.
I hope that gets a good home video release in the States, because
it feels like a box set type of show. It doesn't feel like a buy volumes.
I just hope that it gets released at all.
Yeah.
In the States.
It was decently popular.
Yeah. There's I feel like the anime elite kind of like
definitely too. There
definitely not an average Joe kind of show, but
there was a lot of it in there. Basically the people who like to converse online, almost every blogger was big into it, which was once again one of the things I liked the most about it was going through week by week and reading people's thoughts about it. We had a discussion about Yuri in it, whether or not it was a thing that people were imagining or whether it was there. And that's another just interesting thing about it.
Strange, too, because it seems to be like a pretty popular opinion that Paprika and Coconut are in
Oshiyama also confirmed it.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird for me because while I definitely go to some places to make that happen in my mind, Flip Flappers is definitely a show that I
Just didn't see it.
never once got that connotation.
That goes back to what I was talking about, though, where everybody's going to get something different from the show.
Yeah. It's weird, too, because I feel like it's the type of thing where it's like, man, it's almost all too common that a show almost like, I want to say like accidentally portrays a Yuri relationship where it's definitely not the intention, where I feel like Flip Flappers is the complete reverse for me, where it's just like, man, I guess it's Yuri, but like to me, they just seem like good friends. And maybe like, you know, a lot of it has to do with like, you know, because obviously anime is made by mostly men. And a lot of it has to do with like, okay, well, like how do men think like a gay relationship between women looks?
It's
and that is very different, and how to portray that, like, because it's very different show to show.
There was a part of that interview was Oshiyama talking about that particularly too. It's I'll have to send you a link to it. It's a very good read.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's as far as original anime
there's also
go,
the argument like physical Yuri versus emotional Yuri, which is just definitely a lot of emotional Yuri happening in this show.
For sure. Especially once you add Mimi to the mix. But like I said at the beginning of this, it's a lot of things of what I look for in an original anime, something that I can revisit, something that I'm not going to forget in 3 months.
Yeah. Speaking of gay stuff, my best original was Yuri on Ice. It's one of my top shows of the year. Was my top show of fall. It's a monumentous achievement in a lot of ways. It is a breakthrough for LGBT representation in anime.
It was so brilliant at that. It's so nice to see it non-fetishized in anime.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it almost spoils all other, like all
because
other
we were
gay anime.
Such BL fans before this.
I mean, I definitely was a lot more favorable towards it than you were, but you can't knock it for what it does, even if you really want to hate Yuri on Ice, which is a thing.
Some people
I wish some people would fucking grow up. But yeah, no, it is a remarkable achievement. It is the single most validating thing that has happened to me since I started watching anime is I finally get to be like, guys, now that you love Sayo Yamamoto so much and actually know who she is, like, shit, you know what she has is all this other great work that you could totally go back to and see like, oh shit, she's been doing a lot of stuff for like feminism and women in anime and like her themes of mature sexuality and like really breaking the mold on like what it means to be like a sexual character in an anime. Like shit, she's been doing that way differently for most of this time. It's like arguably Yuri on Ice is the least Sayo Yamamoto show that she has made so far. In a lot of ways, and I'm really excited for people to go back and like experience Michiko and Hachi and experience The Woman Called Fujiko Mine and like and watch Endless Night, which I feel like is a thing that like not a lot of people have seen. And you know, it's incredibly validating because this is like the first time that I've like carried a torch for someone.
Really fun to say I told you so.
Yeah. Oh no, it's fantastic. But like I don't want to be there. I want to be like, yes, welcome. Like come into my arms, child. Let us experience the wonder that is Sayo Yamamoto together. And also, you know, we have a woman in, like I said before, a almost like nearly all male industry, who not only is making shows that clearly fucking sell well because it just came out today that they sold 50,000 Blu-rays.
Absurd in these times.
Incredible, but deserving, like incredibly deserving. But not only that, like it is a woman who has made a show that is incredibly popular with women, and that is, I hope that every woman, especially in the U.S., knows that the show that they are watching was created primarily by women. And not just one woman, like Kubo, also like, a design team that comprised a lot of women. And that is, even outside of like how good the anime is, that means so fucking much in especially this year and like the climate that we're all living in now.
It's funny reading the discourse about it online because we know how much Sayo had to do with it, but because of her relative silence compared to Kubo, and this is not knocking on Kubo. Kubo was just as important. I haven't been hearing her name a lot in the discourse. God knows there's a lot of discourse on Yuri on Ice online, but Kubo gets brought up, at least 10 times for every time Sayo does.
Kubo deserves as much credit as Sayo does, but the show would have never happened if it weren't for Sayo Yamamoto. Sayo Yamamoto...
She's got bigger balls than anyone in the industry, which is ironic.
True. But also, she is the type of person that brings nothing but the best talent to the table whenever she makes she
really lets her productions speak for themselves too.
Yeah. But she knows who she's good working with. I mean, anyone that has seen Woman Called Fujiko Mine and ever looked at the staff list for that. I mean, like the fact that you have Sayo Yamamoto directing, Takeshi Koike on character design, and Mario Okada writing it. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, it's she's the type of person that even when she leaves a project, she leaves it in such a fantastic state because, Takeshi Koike directed the Jigen's Gravestone thing, which is the spinoff of that show. But I mean, she's directed episodes of some of the best episodes of Samurai Champloo, which is something that like almost zero people ever speak about. She really is, such a strong leader. And in an industry that is, almost all men, that is, that's about one of the most important things that's happened this year is that this show was.
I
a
wrote
thing.
that in the paper one that we did in the online article that we wrote about it. I said it wasn't my favorite of the season, but it was by and far the most important.
Yes.
Like not even close.
Yeah. I would probably argue that it's probably the most important anime of 2016 in terms of just what it means.
Nah,
it's opened a door.
It's going to change a lot.
Yeah, it's opened a door, and I mean, I feel like it is definitely going to be one of those shows that in 10 years. Everyone is still going to be talking about.
You say it's the Evangelion of 2016.
I mean,
I couldn't even finish that.
No, because I feel like it's a lot more hopeful and nice than Evangelion. But also, I mean, it's the final question about Yuri on Ice has been answered, and that is, an awful, cynical question, but one that we always have to ask about anime that we think are good is that like, how long is it going to be around? Because how much does it sell? Well, fuck, it just outsold like everything in 2016 that was a TV anime.
Really good numbers.
And I mean, it's basically based on those numbers alone. I mean, like basically guaranteed at this point.
That's just Japan. That thing's going to sell like hotcakes.
I mean, that thing is going to. I mean, it already broke the fucking internet, literally. I mean, it is going
run
to
down Tumblr. What the fuck?
It is going to explode monetarily in the United States. So. Everything about that show is deserved. It's incredibly important. It's the most important thing that happened in anime in 2016 by like a very wide margin. And the fact that it is 100% positive and pushing this fucking industry in the right direction in every conceivable way it clinches my best original category for sure, or favorite. It is one of my favorite of the year. However, it does not win the following category for me. And that is...
I'm sure you can guess my favorite.
Favorite show overall. What is it? Oh, I know. But you say it.
It's Love Live Sunshine.
Yes. Okay. Thank God.
Yeah, that's...
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I was going to feel so terrible if I had that wrong.
No, but, it was clearly Luck and Luck. No. Love Live Sunshine, like, holy shit. You guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but I just said with Flip Flappers.
Fuck off. Yeah. This is Ono Anime. We're talking about
we talk about Love Live a lot. But I said before with Flip Flappers that I don't routinely rewatch anime. I've seen Love Live Sunshine, I think 6 times now. Granted, 4 times that's while it was airing because I would watch it live, then watch the raw, then watch it subbed, and then watch it subbed with friends.
Yeah.
But I watched it just straight up marathon. I'll get home, I'll be like, today's a good day to watch Love Live. And then
it is yet more evidence that while Love Live might not be the best idol anime, it is the best thing.
Yeah, no.
It is a wonderful, pure thing.
It puts me in a good place.
Yes. It is a wonderfully simple, pure, wonderful thing full of wonderful daughters for us all to be proud of.
There's 2 things concerning Love Live that I can't wait for. All right. One is I'm willing to bet, if you want to do this on screen, I'm willing to bet $100 Aqua plays at AX this year.
I mean, I want that to happen really fucking bad, but I also feel like that it is so ridiculously hard to predict. I mean, after last year, I would say that we probably shouldn't make any predictions as to what's going to happen at AX because I don't think anyone could have predicted that what happened last year actually happened.
No, that was insane.
I would not be surprised if they actually brought Perfume over. Like, I would not be surprised at this point because
They did do the Chihayafuru live action movie opening, so they're technically. That's a fucking great song,
Jesus
too.
Christ.
Flash is
Well,
really
they
good.
also collaborated with OK Go for the fucking Sushi Police opening.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Or whatever that,
I forgot Sushi Police was a thing.
It was also a terrible
anyway,
song.
So the first thing was AX. The second thing is we need to get our ass back to karaoke when they add more Aqua songs.
Yeah, true.
Right now, all they have is Kimi Coco, the first single.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Love Live is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And I am so glad that I am finally in it. I definitely am in it for, I would say, different reasons than you are, but I feel like it doesn't matter.
No, it really doesn't. So many fans are in it just for the game. So many fans are in it just for the art.
There is a part of Love Live somewhere that and I'm talking to you, listener, there is, if you have not seen Love Live yet, there is something in it for you. Even if it's just like, hey, I like cute girls.
That's enough.
Guess what?
They're the cutest.
They're the cutest. Like I mean, if there was a cutest girl award, I would be picking which 9 out of the Love Lives from this year. Like it's it's a very endearing, very heartwarming, very wonderful in every way, and it's also like such like it's almost like zeitgeist porn because I feel like being part of the Love Live zeitgeist is like such a exhilarating thing.
I mean, I loved Muse so much, but I didn't get it until after Snow Halation, which meant I missed the formative years. To be able to be a part of Aqua as it's happening and seeing it take off is fucking great. And
seeing where they go from here, because I mean, it's
step 0 to 1, right?
Yeah, nowhere but up, all the way up, as DJ Khaled says. So. With that, my favorite overall was Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju.
I actually almost put this because I think that was the best show of the year, looking back. But not my favorite.
It's
really good.
It is, again, one of those shows that really does completely transcend what it is to be anime in a lot of ways. And... Fucking Studio Dean made that show. Where the fuck did that come from? But seriously, I mean that show, it is a. I would say that the voice acting in that show is probably the most significant thing that happened this year in voice acting. I mean, the fact
to call it acting at that point.
It is literal acting. I mean, you have performers doing actual Rakugo, like stuff that exists. The soundtrack consists of half. Turn of the not turn of the century, but like roaring 20s to 1940s, like jazz age music, and then half just straight up traditional Japanese folk songs, just the shamisen and taiko, like that's all it fucking is, and that is so amazing and something that you almost never see in anime, like that level of tradition on display. But that is really what makes this show so ridiculously
really
special.
Piece. This year was like heavy on period pieces,
and
none of them did it anywhere good as well as Rakugo.
Yeah, I mean, even beyond it being a period piece, it was just such a meaningfully human story. I mean, it really. Also, you could like just chart Japanese history through that entire show. I mean, it's like the struggles that everyone in that show faces are so emblematic of like the struggles that everyone in that country
faced. It's a unique window
for
us watching spoilers too.
Totally. I mean, it's weird because I've seen it on more than one recommendation list for like beginners watching anime. And while I would like totally be like to anyone like, fuck, the show is amazing. It's one of my favorite shows in a long time, but like, don't expect to understand much because a lot of that show is
Japanese culture.
You're going to have to look up a lot of stuff. But honestly, I'm at the point now where I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, if you have to look up like what Rakugo is and what all these different things are, it doesn't matter. Because even if you don't get Rakugo, everyone knows campfire stories. Everyone knows folk tales. Everyone's been to fucking Smoky Mountains National Park and seen like a prospector giving a good old fucking wail on the fiddle and a good old tale. Like, it is literally the same thing as that. I mean, like Rakugo is a much more official type of thing than that.
Japanese way of doing it.
It is Japanese folk tales, and that's, every one of them has a moral, and we're all very familiar with that type of stuff because it's, like there are certain bedtime stories in Japan that are also told as Rakugo stories. But it's this really interesting blend of like comedy and morality and theatricalism. I don't know.
For me, I love how meta it is. I hate the buzzword meta, but they use the show itself as a stage so often. Even though the characters are on a stage, it adds like another level of extrication to go through, and it's really brilliant at doing that. There's the few detractors that the show has normally say that it's even though the characters are so rich, the way they move and the way they talk sometimes is stiff. But I think that's on purpose.
Yeah,
I think it's because they're supposed to be like an actor on the stage.
Yeah, we've talked about we've talked about this exact thing before. I mean, it's very Shakespearean in the way that it's presented.
It's like when you watch a TV show in the States or any TV show, it pulls you out of it when people don't act human-like. But if you go and see a show on the stage, so much of stage acting and why like movie actors like stage acting so much is it's about embellishment. It's about theatrics.
It's a melodrama. It's a tale of archetypes. It's a morality tale just as much as the stuff that they're telling in the show is a morality tale. I mean, it literally is. Everything that happens in that show has a moral in some way for the user to glean. And while it might not be as cut and dry as like, literally at the end of the story telling the moral, it's, the story of the show could be told in the form of Rakugo just as much as like the Rakugo tales in it. And that's what I love about it.
A long time at the theater.
Yeah. But I mean, it is a melodrama. It is purposefully, acted in a certain way because that's exactly the type of feel it's almost like watching an incredibly high production stage play being filmed.
Yeah.
The sets are all very theatrical. The way that it is directed is very theatrical. The only thing that like kind of brings it out of that a little bit is the cool thing when someone will start telling a Rakugo tale and the tale will start to come alive around them. And that's like a thing that's the thing that I love so much about anime. It's pretty common. Like, if someone starts telling a story, it's like a flashback sequence. Whereas like this, it's, it is just very like ephemeral and interesting. And, but also, that show also is a study in atmosphere. And like it's one of those shows where I feel like people enjoy the silence as much as like stuff happening.
It's a master at atmosphere, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a really
like a
amazing
master
thing.
class. It's how to make a cool thing.
Yeah. But it's also just like I feel like it's one of those shows that like were it to be studied by critics in the States would probably actually be met with like pretty positive response because I feel like it's is very much not an anime. It could be a drama, but I feel like it actually works as an anime better than a drama.
This is a recurring thing with me on this podcast where I talk about there's good anime and then there's like good things.
Yeah, this is definitely like the best example of a good thing that I can think of. But yeah, I'm so fucking ready for the second season because as much as I love Kikuhiko and all of that, like the past arc, I am so fucking excited to see the 1970s like.
I'm a bad person who forgot her name, but the red-haired girl.
Yeah, I'm
ready for her.
Konatsu. I'm gonna say Konatsu.
It's been a year.
Yeah, Kobayashi Yu. That's all we need to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I remember her. I remember Kobayashi Yu, and she's wonderful. And I hope that we get to see her do Rakugo at some point because I know it's like not a thing that like women just don't do Rakugo, but I don't know. I feel like if anyone was to break that mold, it would be Kobayashi Yu. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us.
Yeah. There were a lot of things we didn't talk about that I wanted to talk about.
There sure were.
So lots of honorable mentions. One that I really want to do is for ending. People Password was definitely my favorite, but Macross Delta had the song that I sang along to the most. The first ending to Delta was absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
So
I thought you
don't
meant
pick
like
opinion.
the way a show ended.
Oh no, no, that was fine.
Best ending, obviously, went to Luck and Logic again, the sweeper of all categories.
Jeez, yeah, Luck and Logic, anime of the year. But real quick, if any of you guys listen to this little message, I'm going to Japan in a couple weeks. If there's anything you guys want me to like take video of or like write an article on, let us know. I'm flying out. Today is the 6th. I'm flying out on the 23rd. I'm not there for too long of a time. I'm just going to be in Tokyo. If I have time, I am going to go see Numazu, where most of Love Live Sunshine takes place.
Yeah.
That'll be based completely on time. I'm going to see some Yokohama.
Yeah, if y'all want to see some shit.
Yeah, I'll be writing
He's bringing
many articles.
the camera and everything with him. So
I'm trying to get some really cool content hooked up for y'all. Like I said, I'm not there for too long. I got stuff I'm doing, but
yeah, important
things.
Very important.
I'm gonna go see a Macross concert and Prepar live again. Very important things, and I'm also taking the Japanese language proficiency test.
Nice.
Or a similar one, not the actual JLPT, but it's another language proficiency thing. But yeah.
All right, well, I think that's going to do it for us. Obviously, onoanime.moe for all of your needs. This will be on YouTube and whatever. So head on over there. Head on over there and check us out if you haven't already. And please subscribe. We like subscribers.
We're
Anyways, y'all,
Good night.
see you later.